Hello, welcome to another episode of Foxhole Deep Dive, episode number 231, where we cover today's topic, the airbender. Okay, so, sometimes when you're really in a tight spot, the wildest idea, it becomes the best weapon. Like those moments when you got to turn the tables, the underdog gets creative. Well, that's what today's deep dive is all about, this clash, this naval clash between the colonials and the warden factions. And let me tell you, these colonials, they've really come up with something pretty out there, a new weapon. They're calling it the airbender.
It's amazing to me how this conflict, it's really forcing both sides to adapt. You've got the wardens, all that firepower, those classic tactics, and now they're facing, well, a very different kind of challenge.
Right. You think you're walking into like a knife fight, you bring a gun, right? And then that knife, it just like bends around the corner, That's kind of the vibe we're getting from this colonial report we're diving into today. It reads a lot like internal bragging, to be honest, all about this airbender tech. But if you read between the lines, we can kind of start to piece together not just what the weapon is, but what this whole scrappy approach tells us about the war itself, the bigger picture.
Exactly. We're getting a peek inside, like, the colonial mindset, their resourcefulness, and, yeah, probably a healthy dose of propaganda, too.
Oh, for sure. For sure. But before we get into, like, the nuts and bolts of making a grenade curve, how do you even do that? Let's get everyone up to speed. What's the deal with this colonial warden situation?
Basically, what you have here is a smaller force, much more agile, going up against, well, a much larger, more technologically advanced opponent. Think of it like the wardens are a well-equipped, very traditional navy, and the colonials are more like, I'd say resourceful pirates. They've learned to adapt.
Okay, so like battleships versus a fleet of, souped-up fishing boats?
Yeah, that's the gist of it. And this is where things get interesting. This is where that colonial ingenuity shines through. The report talks about this engineer, Major Chill. This guy apparently thrives on unconventional solutions, that's putting it mildly. His claim to fame, he asked, get this, what if we just shot forward?
What if we just shot forwards? Okay, I already kind of love this Major Chill,
Yeah.
You just get the feeling he's the kind of guy who sees, like, possibilities where everyone else, they just see the rule book,
Exactly, and that leads us to the airbender itself. Essentially, it's a modified Fissura grenade launcher. Now, a normal Fissura, it fires in a straight line, pretty standard. But Major Chill, well, he's not exactly known for following the rules, is he? He found a way to make those tremolo rounds curve.
Wait, hold on. Curved grenades. How do you even...
Picture this, okay, this long, almost comically curved barrel, and it's been, like, grafted onto the muzzle of a Fissura. Now, the report, it doesn't get into the specifics of how it works, the mechanics. But basically what they're saying is this weird curved barrel, it lets the launcher fire those tremolo rounds in an arc.
Okay, now that is interesting. It's kind of ironic, right? This weapon, it was made for trench warfare, lobbing grenades over things on land. And now it's found a whole new life out at sea.
Yeah, and not just ironic, surprisingly effective, too. At least that's what the colonials are saying. They're claiming this airbender, it's been messing up, like really disrupting warden construction. Imagine, right, you're trying to build like a harbor defense, and suddenly, boom, grenades are raining down on you out of nowhere, practically.
It's like guerrilla warfare, but, on the ocean. Talk about a morale killer.
Yeah.
You're a warden. Used to, the rules, the way naval battles are supposed to be fought, and then suddenly, bam, the enemy is just lobbing explosives right over your defenses.
Exactly, and that's what makes this so interesting. It's not just about, like, blowing stuff up. It's psychological, too.
Oh, absolutely. And the colonials, well, they're definitely milking that for all it's worth. The report, it actually mentions warden builders, like running around totally panicked, shouting, TBFC, TBFC. As the airbender's doing its thing. What even is that, by the way? TBFC.
Yeah, they never actually explain it, do they? But, put it all together, it sounds like maybe a desperate plea to get those anti-air defenses working. Or maybe it's just, like, some dark humor, right? Facing down this ridiculous weapon. Either way, it's pretty clever propaganda.
Right. Makes the wardies look, I don't know, almost silly. All that fancy tech. And they're getting shown up by this, like, scrappy little weapon. And then there's that whole thing with the warden defector, right? The guy who supposedly bailed, switched sides. After one too many run-ins with the airbender.
Classic move there, trying to show, look, even the enemy is unhappy. Hard to say if it's true, of course, but it definitely suggests something. The airbender, it's causing chaos. The wardens are rattled.
Okay, but let's talk about these tremolo rounds for a second. I mean, these things, they were designed for land, right? What happens when you fire them in an arc over the ocean?
Ah, see, that's where the technical stuff gets really interesting. Remember, these tremolo rounds, very specific purpose. Clearing trenches, obstacles, all that on land. Trajectory, blast radius, even how effective they are against different materials, all calibrated for land battles. Now, introduce that same round to, well, the ocean, humidity, wind, the waves, everything's moving. Things could get unpredictable.
Unpredictable. Like, worst case scenario here.
Well, the report, it actually has this disclaimer. Kind of funny, actually. They say, use the airbender at your own risk. Oh, and they mention accidental spontaneous combustion. Probably trying to be funny, but makes you wonder, right? How reliable is this thing, really?
Hold on. Are you saying these curved grenades,
Yeah.
they might, like, backfire, literally?
It's not impossible, right? You're firing something the way it wasn't designed to be fired. Malfunctions, misfires. Extreme case, yeah, maybe it explodes when you don't want it to. And remember, we're going off of basically one source here, and it's biased, let's be honest.
Okay, so maybe not the safest weapon out there, but hey, at least it works on those warden ships, right? The report mentioned, like, an engagement. Something about the Ketchup Gang.
Ah, yes, the Ketchup Gang. Catchy name, don't you think? Probably some warden naval unit, I'd guess. But the interesting thing is, the colonials, they're claiming, this airbender, it's actually pretty good in ship-to-ship combat. Makes you wonder, did Major Chill, like, accidentally invent a weapon with, like, multiple uses?
So from, like, almost a forgotten trench weapon to a potential game changer at sea, all thanks to, what, a curved barrel and someone who just doesn't care about the rules.
Well, I wouldn't say it's quite that simple. We do have to consider maybe this report, it's exaggerating a little, right? Propaganda, gotta make your side look good. It's entirely possible this airbender, it's not as effective as they say. And it might even be, well, more dangerous than they're letting on.
Yeah, there's that old saying, right? Truth is the first casualty of war. And we are definitely getting, I think, the colonial side of the story here, for sure.
Absolutely. It's easy to forget in all of this, every conflict. There's multiple sides to the story, and we're really just seeing one perspective.
Okay, but let's say, just for a minute, let's put aside, like, all the propaganda stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What does this airbender actually mean? Big picture. Like, hypothetically, what if this thing is even half as good as the colonials are claiming? Does that change things?
Well, it could, definitely, especially in the short term, I'd say, because this airbender, it basically throws a wrench right into the warden's whole way of thinking about naval warfare. Imagine you're a warden admiral, right?
Mm-hmm.
Used to having more firepower, the enemy always does what you expect, and then suddenly, bam, you've got this unpredictable, weird weapon raining down destruction from, well, who knows where.
It's like, I don't know, you're playing chess.
Yeah.
And your opponent just makes this move, totally out of left field, breaks all the rules.
Mm-hmm. Perfect analogy. And, in chess, how do you counter a move like that? You got to adapt. Right? And the wardens, if they want to stay on top, they have to figure out this airbender, how it works, what it's weak to, maybe even rethink their ships, how they fight, the whole thing.
So this could actually, like, kickstart a whole new era of naval warfare. Both sides trying to, like, outmaneuver each other, come up with crazier and crazier weapons.
It's possible. And it raises some pretty big questions, too. Like, how do you even defend against something that, practically bends the laws of physics? Do you try to make your own airbender? Start like a naval arms race, curved grenades everywhere? Or, here's a thought, what if you figure out how to use that instability, that weirdness, against the colonials?
Oh, now that would be ironic, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Their own weapon used against them.
Exactly. And it proves a point. Warfare, innovation, it goes both ways. This airbender, brilliant or not, it's shaken things up, no question.
So, to wrap things up here, what have we learned from our deep dive into, well, curved grenades and guerrilla warfare at sea?
Big clear that even in a war, even when it seems like one side has all the advantages, you can't discount human ingenuity. This airbender, who knows how effective it'll be in the long run, but it proves that humans will always adapt. They'll find a way.
Yeah, and maybe, just maybe, it's a good reminder to never underestimate the underdog, especially when they've got a knack for bending the rules and the grenades. That's all the time we have for today's deep dive. But here's something to think about. How do you think this naval arms race will play out? What does the airbender tell us about the future of war in this world? Keep those questions coming, and we'll see you next time.